A very good morning and welcome to Women and Youth Roundtable Series. And today we are going to be discussing GBV and how it affects women's participation in electoral processes. My name is Sizwakele Ndlovu and I will be a moderator for this program. On the program today, we have three panelists and we have Linda Mpofu, who is the Programs Officer at CYDT. Linda, please give us a quick introduction of what you do at your organization.
Good morning, Sizwakele, and good morning, everyone. Ibizo Linda Mpofu and Program Officer at CYDT. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and what does your organization do, Linda, for those who might not know?
Oh, okay. We are a youth-based organization working in Gwanda and the whole of Matabeleland South, in the 7 districts of Matabeleland South. So what we do is we work with young people between the ages of 18 to 35. We are trying by all means to empower them with skills so that they actually realize their potential in participating in governance processes, economic, social, and all sectors of life in the processes.
Linda. Next we have Gracious Maviza. Gracious, please give us a quick introduction of yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gracious Maviza. I am a researcher with the Institute of Development Studies at NAST. I do a lot of research on gender issues, migration, and livelihoods. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Zwa.
Pleasure, thank you. Studuzile Maslela, are you here? Have you joined us? Dudu, are you here? Unfortunately, I think our third panelist will be joining us shortly, but in the interest of time, we are going to go straight into our topic. And our topic is gender-based violence and how it affects women's participation in electoral processes. So to start us off, let me start off with Linda. Linda, please give us your presentation on this topic, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Sizwakele. Yeah, right. GBV and how it affects women's participation in electoral and governance processes. First of all, I had to ask myself, what exactly is GBV? And for me, well, it's gender-based violence. It's violence that happens to maybe a male or a strictly women-based violence, which is a part of gender-based violence. And for me, when we're talking about gender-based violence, it's not only the physical violence. I want to talk about gender-based violence. So for me, I had to sit down and say, okay, here is gender-based violence, and how does it affect women participation?
Linda, your network is going up and down.
Woman has a violence. Umama nxa esechayiwe onje nxa ezihambela abe lokhe ehlukunyezwa kule.
Hi, Linda.
It was something that's troubling her. Either she is being beaten at home or she's being jeered on the streets because of her structure or her woman being. So, kuba le sort of like a problem esengqondweni, and ugcina esele depression, anxiety. Sometimes they think of suicidal behavior. Uyazi umuntu esefuna ukuzibulala because lapho akhona, it's not conducive for her to actually live because of the abuse that she is facing. So nxa sesikhangela electoral process or governance processes, they need someone or less sound mind, someone ongekho depressed, someone okwanisa nje ukukhangela ama-processes are analyzed. As a woman, you are being abused, you are not able to analyze situations. You are not able to actually participate freely in these processes because vele wena ngokwakho ingqondo yakho, you are already disturbed. So you can't really be involved in these processes because you are disturbed. And when it comes to Zimbabwe, electoral processes there too, they are usually full of violence. And the violence, it always affects mom. Imagine someone who has been violated, and then again come elections, you are thinking of the violence that is there already. So it really affects participation. Mama, they don't want to be involved in all these physical, emotional, processes wonke. And if you realize, even but you know, that's another kind of gender-based violence that cascades to, you know, events that happen within the community. Because you are actually treated like a kid, a child, you are beaten up, we are abused, we are everything. And then when you get to a rally, it really it continues to be a series of abuses. Sometimes we don't realize these abuses, but this is what is happening in the reality. So we start to sing, and when a woman is asked to dance vele at a rally, kusetshenziswa izibungu woman konke lo mzimba wakhe at abanye they really participate in all this because it's just the same. The situation that I'm in at home, I'm treated the same. And again, when mama got to report about gender-based violence cases, policing, they are not treated fairly, such that we lose, you know, the confidence in the system that is supposed to be actually protecting them. And at the end, well, it doesn't really matter to them anymore to and actually the stigma again and the rejection that comes from the community and the family, especially when a woman has been violated or a woman has survived from gender-based violence, such that umama because of the stigma that is attached. We might say, I see, but many times we find ourselves pointing or sikhwebana ukuthi khangela phela umama lwana nguyo wachaywa wakhitsha izinyo, khangela umama lwana nguye phela abamhleke because she was putting on a miniskirt, khangela umama lwana. We are always quick to be to be showing each other umama who has been abused, umama who is a survivor of gender-based violence. And many a times we think that woman is garboni what is happening. Uyabona, uyananzelela, and then they end up going back home in a cocoon and therefore not participating in whatever processes that are there, which is also a problem again, because Agusela, you outside choose how you want things to be like. I think for now I will end here.
Wow, Linda, you've brought up some very interesting points. As a makeup of Tino Mama, we we are in a society, this patriarchal society, to be ngendlela futhi esibizwa ngayo kuthiwa singabantwana already abantwana labo mama bonke are bunched together as abantwana. So it becomes very difficult for a woman to stand up and all those points you brought in are such valid points as well, which that as sapotani just saying it is a to mama lona hey. Can you imagine you brought such amazing points and I'm interested to find out more as well, but we'll move over to Gracious Mavisa Katesi. Gracious, please give us your presentation.
Thank you, Zwa, and thank you, Linda, for that insightful presentation. I think you've really gone into detail in some of the things I also wanted to highlight. But I would also come from this perspective to say gender-based violence generally is violence that is directed towards the person based on their gender, like Linda has said. And it is also driven by the expectation of that person's role in a society or a culture. So if we look at our culture in Zimbabwe, I'm going to try and dwell on that a bit before I can move to the GBV elections itself. We realize that we are largely a patriarchal society, and in patriarchal societies, there is a certain way in which men and women are expected to behave. And in most instances, in patriarchal societies, women have been left to tend the private sphere, which is the domestic, the home, to do the reproductive and affective work, while the men are supposed to be out there in the public sphere. They are the ones who are dealing with the politics of the day, if I'm to put it that way. However, we have seen this changing in over time. Women are also beginning to infiltrate the public sphere, as it were. But for some people, that comes as an anomaly to say, why is a woman actively involved in the public sphere? By virtue of a woman being seen in the public sphere, politically, they become, they get called names. For instance, so the participation of women either as voters or as candidates themselves, or even managers of political management, it comes under a lot of scrutiny in most of these patriarchally oriented systems and societies. And as a result, you'll find that just based on that, the women may tend to shrink back or take a back seat in terms of participating in politics. And having said that, now we look at the different forms of GBV, have created that context in which all this happens. You will realize that gender-based violence takes a lot of forms, like Linda has alluded to. Most of the times, if we think GBV, we are thinking bashing and smacking, physical violence, but it goes beyond that. It goes to entail the psychological violence. It affects women psychologically. There's the sexual dimension as well. And there are also softer forms of GBV where we look at unfavorable electoral processes. We look at barriers that are hindering women from participating. For instance, in parties, you'll find women do not have access to campaign funds, lack of media coverage, and all that stems from the mere fact that for politics, it seemed to be a domain for men. Traditionally, it's something that men are supposed to do. And so how does gender-based violence really affect women's participation in electoral processes? You'll find that GBV escalates harassment, intimidation, sexual and physical violence, and there's a lot of gender-based scrutiny by the public and the media. Ulinda mentioned that most of the times it is us women who are going to be saying, did you see that woman? She was bashed, she you and all that. But again, it's us who come back most of the times and thinking, Unazvani is getting into politics, and we are labeling these people with negative, stereotypical labels that most of the times are not good to carry around. And as a result, that sort of makes women to shy away from electoral processes, be it as voters, campaigners, or as candidates themselves. And who also realize that this is mainly emanating from what I alluded to before, to say in most of our societies, women were relegated to the private sphere and the public domain is for men. So for a woman to be seen out there, there are people who want to do correctional, if I'm to put it in quotes, correctional violence, to say we want to beat you back to your space where you belong, instead of you being seen out there challenging the men. Or already, if you are a woman is participating as a candidate, in most instances, you're seen to be pitted against men. And who are you to want to stand against men in their domain? So the perpetrators, most of the times, are those who see women as deviating from their traditional roles. And as such, the deviation is sort of a threat to the male domain. That's why in most instances you hear some of the men decampaigning their women counterparts to say, leave these ones, don't vote for them because they already have the quota system in place for them. So in most instances, that comes as a way, in a way, to stop women from participating in politics. And if we look at these instances in elections, most of the time there's a lot of violence. And like I said, much of this violence against women it takes different forms. The violence I'm talking about is the physical violence, where some people even die or are killed in the process. But for women, they work on their psychology. It gets to you psychologically. And women end up being afraid. They fear standing as candidates because they fear for their security. They fear for the security of their loved ones. They fear social labeling. They fear attacks on their morals. You are viewed as someone who's loose if you get into politics in most instances. This is happening globally. If you look at research done around the world, that's what happens. Women in politics most of the times are viewed as loose, and they fear sexual violation, and that is the highest order of violation for any woman. So women will tend to look at these things most of the times, and they'll stand back and say, I would rather be safe than expose me and my loved ones to such. And again, as voters, women are discouraged from voting, taking part in voting as an electoral process, because in most instances, like Linda was saying, women are reduced to mere dancers and singers in these gatherings. And as a result, it sort of makes them take a step back to participate in these. And again, I was discussing with a friend this morning to say, have you ever seen a woman candidate who goes out campaigning with their partner by their side? And in most instances, the GBV starts right from the home, where the men most of the time may not feel good about the woman participating because you're getting out of the way. And in most instances, these men are out there braving it on their own. And if you look, I haven't really done research on this, but just a few instances that we can point to, you'll find most of these active women political candidates actually either separated or they are divorced. And that stems from that mere fact that in most instances, the men will feel threatened, or they would feel it's an improper thing for the woman to do. And as a result, that stops the women from participating in politics or electoral processes, as it were. So I think as a way of concluding, the lack of women's participation really in electoral processes is firmly rooted in the patriarchal ideologies of gender roles. The woman is supposed to be all reproductive and affective. And as such, if you cross the line and coming on the other edge, you seem to be deviating from what a woman is supposed to be doing. And this is also driven by fear. Women will not participate because they are afraid. They may expose themselves and their loved ones to even more violence. And the psychological trauma, being called names is not a good thing. So the women would rather stay clear and not really take part so that they avoid the social ostracism, as it were. So in a nutshell, I'll stop here for now. That will be my submission. Thank you, Zoa.
Thank you so much, Gracious. You've raised very interesting points. Uti society tunje, we are in a patriarchal society. I culture to vile injalo. I have a question though. Uti, we as women, Auntie, we are a majority, and women and youth are a majority, Auntie. So, Tina, as women, are we ready to start accepting that Tina, as women, we are capable leaders? Ngoba, I think the system takes advantage of the fact that we are so divided. But Tina, abafazi, do we realize that we are powerful? We run homes, we bear children, we make decisions, we raise these children. Are we believing that we are capable leaders and therefore another woman can be a leader? What's your thought on that, Gracious?
On that one, Joa, I think if you look around in almost every sphere of every sector, you'll find people will tell you that it's very difficult for a woman to work with a woman or a woman to support another woman in any given sphere, be it in the workplace. If a woman is a boss, the woman under them, most of the time, not always, there will be friction in that regard. And I think from studies that have been done, there are sentiments that women are not really, supporting each other fully. And I think to answer your question, we are a powerful force. We have the potential, but we have not gone beyond the pull head down syndrome to say we are the majority, therefore let's push one of our own. We're actually the ones who take a step back and say, why is she getting into politics? She's loose. What kind of a mother does that? Who leaves their children for a week or two out there campaigning and. So I think in trying to respond to your question, we haven't really gotten to that point where we realize the power that we have. I think in Zim other out there, but all that is driven by the gender stereotypes that are actually shaping our society. To say we've been socialized to believe that a woman is supposed to belong to the domestic sphere, be at home. If you're working, you are in the care and affective industry, and the moment you seem to be traversing beyond that, it becomes sort of a questionable thing. So we have the potential, but I guess we haven't really realized what it would take for us to support one another as women and push each other into those echelons in the political sphere.
Gracious, you mentioned a very good point. Uti pull her Down syndrome and Loguti Emma office in the Zini. We are the biggest cause of each other's drama. How we can even start addressing it, because this pull her down syndrome is real, because as women also, we are supposed to be able to understand for some woman to step out there and leave her children. We could actually be a support. I'll look out for the children for you, I'll babysit for you. But it's like every time a woman steps up and shines, it feels like as women, we feel less than. I'm not living up to my full potential. She's making me feel bad about myself. Therefore, since she's making me feel bad about myself, why should I support her? But look, it's a debate that can continue for the rest of the day. What I'm going to ask now, I'm just going to check if Dudu's here. Dudu, are you here? Dudu? Dudu, have you joined us? Have you managed to join us? While we wait for Dudu, I'll just check if there are any comments. Does anybody want to make a comment? Linda, would you like to say something before we open it up to our panel?
Yes, I'd like to say something, especially on the question that you asked, Gracious. I think to a lesser extent, women are ready to really stand out there and say we are taking up the space. The mere fact that most of our women now, especially those in politics, they are actually fighting for a women's quota. It shows we are not really that ready. We want women to actually stand up there and say, I can actually be a woman candidate and be voted into without actually being given this position on a silver platter like i-women's quota. So I think khonokho yikho kwenza omama bebe belokhe kubabisela emuva. We need women to actually feel that process yokucampaigna, feel that process again yokutshona emile futhi la ebala ama-ballot to say, okay, did I win, did I not win, rather than to be relaxed and be at home and say, I bengafikisa this number, then it means I am in. We need to be versatile. We need to really think out of the box. I, for one, civilly, I would have loved a situation whereby women's quota was scraped off so that we start thinking about real issues. We think, okay, how are we going to actually penetrate in Dawale and get in? This quota seems to be a very simpler way out. So yeah, I think we are not really that ready.
Linda, usuqale enye indaba lapha, indaba yequota leyi is a very contentious issue ngoba lapho in those processes you raise valid points ukuthi even khona ngale parliament and stuff, there is so much gender-based abuse that happens ukuthi lena ngabo bakhosi, you are just nothings and things like that. And I take this from the definition who Gracia said. She said, violence is what happens to you because of your gender and what your society expects you to, how your society expects to act out your role. And she mentioned nicely, it is not just violence, it's also intimidation. It's bizo. And over there as well, doesn't this whole system also make it even more reason for women to want to stay away? For example, this quota system, parliament is very horrible and it's not friendly. Also, you've gone through all those processes. You've campaigned, you are in parliament, and even parliament itself is still very hostile. So let's talk about that, Linda. Well, you're saying we should scrap all this, but then what will we have? Already, we've seen that Abakhezu Konangali are getting drama as well. So if we scrap that, will it mean that we won't have any women in parliament because people might even shy away even more? What are your thoughts on that, Linda?
No, okay. My system is a totally different one. I prefer a situation whereby certain constituencies are set specifically for women so that they can also be voted into. For example, if we have constituencies like Emat South, we've got 13 constituencies, right? We have maybe 7 constituencies specifically for women. In this manner, in whatever constituency, agula political party that has to field a male, only females kuphela, so that they can also get that a feel of Ugumalapana. They speak into their manifestos, they campaign, they also get that confidence to speak to people and ask for votes. That is the situation or the system that I prefer than the quota system, because even after the quota system, if you realize, there is a research that was done by Gender Links, and it states that even after the quota system in 2018, the number of women who have voted into parliament dropped drastically. So meaning all those, powerful women that we've been hoping or pinning our hopes on, I know I'm going to vote for this woman, they actually shifted from contestation to contest, and they moved to a quota system waiting for a number. So meaning vele parliament, the number of women who were really voted into, it's down, it has dropped again. So we need that situation whereby women actually contest each other, so that they gain that confidence along the way, and then later on it will be fair ground.
Linda, thank you so much for your comments. And for those of us who are just joining us, we are talking about gender-based violence and how it affects women participation in electoral processes. Studuzile, over to you. While we are waiting for Udu to rejoin us, I'm going to go through some of the comments that have come through, and let's comments. Okay. Linda, Gulomuntu is saying they disagree with what you are saying, but this is the whole purpose of this conversation. We're here to chat. There we go. Right, let's see. I beg to differ with you, Linda. Women have to compete at the same level with men. This thing you're going to give a favor based on gender. Okay, my 2 cents worth on that is, I think the process of competing woman to woman, would have a reform of the electoral processes, would have field women candidates only, would go a long way in assisting women build up their confidence, because sometimes when you're fighting a battle with men and your sexuality is called into question, it's been used even in America. Trump, was it what was that woman? Why is her name slipping away? There was a whole gender-based question around her as well. Sexuality will always be used. Somehow there is a certain connotation. It would be so much harder for you as a woman to actually call out another woman in public and say, when unje, without evidence. But a man could easily say, oh, she was my girlfriend, or whatever it is. I don't know, but let me go through other comments. Financial constraints are a factor, I agree. Can workshops also be conducted so that more women can be re-educated on the power they have to make such decisions and their roles? From Petronella, the untapped potential that women have bestowed upon them is their greatest enemy. Once women are able to exploit their own unlimited potential, then they will stop feeling threatened by other women who are brave enough to bulldoze the system and stand at loggerheads of men. Until that bravery is evoked from within them, the pull head down syndrome will not go away. Why have we not heard about male PhD is because they are ballsy and are ready to compete against all odds. This PhD impetus has been on for decades, the loophole that men have been using to turn women against each other. Isn't it time out, Chini? Where the current breed blocks this gap to outdo men? Just me thinking aloud. So, Linda, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think Usanele did not hear me correctly. I think, Lami, I don't want women to be given these positions on a silver platter. That's what I say, especially talking about the women's quota. Yikho kucina kuthiwa yibhakhosi, and yikho kucina bebuzwa ukuthi kanti vele, who are you representing? Because in honesty, bangenela phana because of being picked up. And if you realize, Futhi, they are being picked up like political parties are. After Uzwe, we always hear of different stories out there. How kettiwe ngoba unje, who kettiwe ngoba unje. So I am saying, as much as we want at least women representation in parliament, we don't want to be given on a silver platter. But again, we have got these factors that are actually hindering us women into actually getting into parliament. So city, we need certain constituencies set aside at least women against a woman against a woman, so that maybe for one term, the next term, then specific a level playing field, a woman contesting against a man or whatever. So engakufuniyo lami sanele moyo yikuthi women be given on a silver platter nje. Ulinda Mphofu ezidlalele eGwanda ukuthi hayi wena sesikuthatha phela sicela uyengena eParliament sungowethu. Vele abasoze bandlalela abantu eParliament. They will always have this thing ukuthi ungene njani engxenye ulele nosivani. Vele ibhakhosi le, keep quiet. We've been seeing this happening in Parliament.
Thank you very much, Linda. And also in other discussions, zindaba the processes of electoral processes, if political parties are forced to field women candidates, then they are forced to have more structures that are conducive to women participating. It becomes an automatic thing. This has been the discussion. We can discuss this here as well. Once you force a political party to have 50% of their candidates being women, and those 50% candidates of women participating in women-to-women awards or constitutions or constituencies, then it is already automatically fast-tracked the process here to women participation. So it goes back to electoral reforms. We can have a chat about this, and before we get any more comments, Studuzile, I'm just checking if Studuzile is available to give a presentation. If not, we shall continue and hopefully she will join us in a bit. So if anybody's going to comment on that while I check the other comments, we can go ahead. Let's see. Margin says, I personally feel financial constraints hinder women to take the spaces because campaigning requires umuntu olesikhwama esikhudumalayo. How then do you compete lo muntu ole mali yakhe nxa ule manifest noma nxa wait, how do you compete lo muntu ole mali yakhe nxa ule manifesto excellent okunganani unzima? And Scha says, what can be done to make women realize the power that lies in supporting each other, seeing that the pull-down syndrome continues to be a factor? So for those who've joined us, how gender-based violence affects women in electoral processes. So Lind, Gracious, I have a question. Is gender-based violence, is it necessarily one gender, a male gender, maybe against female, or can it be female to female? Is that considered a via GBV or is just some other term?
I've never thought of it along those lines, but if we look at the definition of GBV, I think regardless of who perpetrates it, as long as the person is violating the other based on the fact that they are a woman, it becomes GBV in my view. I'm yet to look into it beyond just the gender binaries. But for me, I think for as long as you are doing it to me because I am a woman, I will take it. It's still GBV. This is just me. I'm yet to really look into it in terms of the research done and all that to check if it is really like that. But according to me, if we look at the definition, it is a violence against a person based on their gender and the socio-cultural expectations of their role. So whether it's another woman perpetrating it, to me, I think it would still be gender-based violence.
Okay. So what can be done to make women realize the power that lies with supporting each other? Does anybody have an answer to that?
Okay,
Even
Zwa,
yeah.
okay, I can try. I think these conversations help ukuthi khona na women, we also get to realize our potential. As it is now, ungakhangela ku-chat, we are around 60 or so. It means that women are really interested in really actually coming up with something tangible to say, how best can we really break this these barriers that are actually hindering us from participating. Conversation like this really help for us to also introspect, to say, okay, Lapana, is this really what I believe in? Like, I believe in Konokanuguti constituencies for women to women, but someone is saying no, it's actually something futi oguza, it's another silver platter. And I'm also thinking, okay, I need to really introspect and really say, "Guyini esingakwenza." I'm also thinking our leadership trainings, they should be there in abundance so that women actually, this fear and this is okay, we are not capable. It is actually destroyed. We need more of those so that we actually get to realize the potential to our fullest. Abanye phela realizing my potential, ngabe realizing ukuthi I can be able to do this, but not actually my full potential. So we need such platforms whereby we get to converse around these issues. We need trainings, we need workshops. Next time I really realize my full potential.
While it is difficult to change in mindset, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. What can we do to plant seeds that are fresh in the minds of our youth? I'm a youth to know gender-based violence is wrong and women are at par with each other. What can we do to actually get to the youth and the young ones? Because sometimes tinabadala we
Oh, okay, so thank you. I think we need more of awareness raising. Gender-based violence is something ephilayo, and actually the youth are actually facing it as well. So I think we need to keep on talking about this. Ungananzelela, things are changing. Kudala, no one would really stand there and speak freely gender-based violence, but izinto ziyachinja. The fact that people keep on talking about it, it makes it quite easier for someone ukuthi ananzelele ukuthi this is bad. So we need to really raise awareness to the fullest maximum. Wherever we are, we talk about it so that our youths, especially Tina, that we work with, they understand how bad this thing is, how bad it affects the participation of people, and how bad it has really killed the mindset of mama.
Okay, I'll go through the comments quickly. We've got one from Nhlanhla who says, legislating women against women is also a silver platter phenomenon that does not address the underlying problem, which is values. We need to engage in a values clarification process about female leadership in the country. Okay. All right, let me get another comment. I agree with you, Linda. This is from Lungile. Can we be given constituencies where women will contest against each other? The quota system does not address 50-50 representation because those women on quota system are disempowered. Arthur says, I believe that women can equally compete for leadership positions with men, but doesn't barring men to compete on the same level with women for parliamentary seats, etc., aren't we indirectly perpetuating the stereotype that women are not good enough and thus we have to change the system or to lower the bar so they can compete and win? Furthermore, women are the majority. It means they can and do determine who goes into power one way or another. So by demographics only, women can simply vote women into power if they so wish. Just my humble opinion. Sanele says, Linda's proposal is not good for democracy. We can't sacrifice good leadership because we want to accommodate women. Nomalanga says that's where empowerment comes in to help women reach their potential. Makara says, I think girl empowerment movements at schools are a necessity for girls to grow up aware of their rights and their positions as young women. And Stormy says that women don't need to be given certain privilege to achieve a level playing field. It's high time that we discarded that mentality. Women are capable of competing in spaces. We need to fully rally behind each other and uplift each other. And one of our last comments, besides issues on GBV, we've seen the great man fall all because of a woman. And so I believe a woman can also rise with boldness, without fear of being abused by men in the same political positions. And gender mainstreaming should also target our boys so that we catch them young to prevent GBV. Currently, we tend to lose it because it targets women. That's a very interesting point. Linda, go ahead.
Thank you, Zwa. I'm back again, Sanele. Sanele uthi it's not good for democracy. We can't really say a potential umuntu alright anga contest for the sake of a woman. And then my question would be, does it mean that we don't have any good leaders amongst women? I think this is the mentality that we are trying to run away from, to say, okay, yeah, oh mama singabanika amathuba because maybe we've got good leaders abangabo amadoda. Why not give these women a chance? Give us women a chance so that kungehlula kwehlule, yes. But all I'm saying is let's give each others a chance so that our confidence yet is built. And then from there, we can then have a playing field. For me, women's quota is not really giving us that confidence that we need. It's not really, because as we don't go through the processes zonalizana campaign civil one-on-one, actually, you know, ngibuye ngizopresenta imanifesto yami. But if I'm given that chance myself, competing against another woman, and then you will find out we are also potential leaders. We are good leaders. So give us that chance, and then we see from there after. Thank
you so much, Linda, for your comment. Gracious, do you have any comments to add to this debate that we're having now?
Yes, I do have a comment on that as well, especially if we base it on trying to say women should be given better treatment or some seats that are reserved for them. For me, that is just going to address the issues above the ground, but we leave the core issues causing that unaddressed. And as such, I would rather the playing field be left even, and women or the society at large is taken through some, I don't know if I could call it education of sorts, to sort of demystify some of the gender stereotypes that have led us to where we are today. And I'll go back to your question on this generation versus the generations that are coming after us. In my opinion, like you're saying, for us, maybe the damage has been done. We may try to keep doing these talks and have these engagements and dialogues, and we hope we'll achieve something at least that could be in the favor of women and undo some of the stereotypical views that are there. But the greatest job is in the generations that are coming. Culture is something that is not static, it's something that is changing. So the dynamism of culture means or gives us an advantage in that we can afford to try and change the worldview and the socialization culturally in terms of gender expectations of what is to be expected of a man and a woman. And if we are able to instill that into our children and those coming after us, the playing field may be different in the generations coming. So we may achieve something now by addressing the generation we are in now and those older than us, but we may achieve more if we may try and really attend to it in the generations coming and change the socialization narrative, the message that is given to the boys and the girls that are growing now. If by so doing, at least we are able to undo and uncircle some of the cultural stereotypes that have taken us to where we are today. And as a result, we are able to undo some of the cultural norms and values. Someone once wrote to say we cannot legislate against culture. No matter how much we try to put these frameworks in place that can, push women, we want to have the women competing against themselves. It's okay, it's good, but we cannot legislate and put those things to undo culture. What we can do is to try and work within the societies in the socialization narrative to change the cultural stereotypes that are there or the messaging in the culture that is there, so that at least it brings us to a level playing field for both the men and the women to understand that, look, women and men can compete on a level playing field and we both belong to either of the spheres. And until we are able to get to address those norms, the gender norms, we may keep singing the same song for as long as we exist, but we may not really realize much. But if we want to realize much, I think we may need to actually get to the gender norms and address them in the generations that are still coming and change the socialization narrative. Thank you, Zwa.
Gracious, the one point I got from you, we can't legislate culture into being amended, and that's a very powerful point. I believe Duduzile has joined us. Duduzile, please go ahead with your presentation. She is our third panelist. Duduzile, please go ahead.
How gender-based violence affects women participation in the electoral process. First, I'll look at the family setup. Family setup, if umama abuse, kuba nzima kakhulu ukuthi athi stand up esemela aye azame ukufuna aye ukuthi ayelide abantu. Then in that case, most of vele nxa sikhuluma ngama-elections, sikhuluma ngokuthi umuntu ufuna ukustanda for a certain position ku-politics. Siyabe sikhuluma ngemali. Then if vele automatically abuse endlini, kuba nzima ukuthi uthole imali kubaba. Secondly, vele khona ukustanda up nje ukuthi uye kuma ebantwini ukwanisa ukukhuluma. Ziningi indlela abeku-abuse ngazo. Ezinye zenza wona vele uthi ube shy, ukuthi uyakhona ukuthi usukume uyamela abantu. Ezinye futhi zenza ukuthi emphakathini ungabonakali njengomuntu ongakwanisa ukumela abantu. Then coming to an issue yokuthi politics emaphathini. Emaphathini okwenzakalayo ukuthi vele ungaba abused already, uhle ungabi, uhle lose self confidence, ube weak, you can't even stand up ebantwini. Uyabe usubona ngani abantu bayabona okwenzakalayo, uyabe usuyiseka. And also lanxa ukhuluma uyabe ungasasekeleleki. Singananzela vele u-abuse khona lokho, even besides sesingasakhulumi ngokufuna ukuba leader maybe ku-constituency kumbe ewadini. Siyananzelela ukuthi vele nxa ungukuthi u-abusiwe kufaka inhloni okokuthi even standing up in front of abantu ukwanisa ukukhuluma ama-issues. Uyabona ngani lama-issues akhulunywayo amanye bekhulumela kuwela nxa abantu bengakhulumi, babephendulela kuwela nxa kuyi-debate within the constituency or kuyi-debate within i-ward. Because singananzela especially these days, ama-councillors siyakwanisa ukuxoxisana lawo ku-social media. So nxa sixoxisana lawo ku-social media, then automatically ugcina ubona ingazani ezinye izinto nxa sebekhuluma babe sebekuyeyisi. I-gender-based violence iyasi-affecta kakhulu ku-electoral process yethu. Sinanzelela futhi ukuthi we are talking of ama-quota systems zona lawo akhona, abangene nge-quota system ye-parliament labanye abavotelwe. Maningi nje ama-issues esibasiwezwa about i-gender-based violence ngabantwana abantu, and kubakhipha isithunzi kakhulu, kwenza ukuthi lanxa sebekhuluma lathi ama-individuals, lanxa be-addressa abantu in the community, umuntu wakhona automatically uyabe engasela sona. So ngamafitshane yikho lapho ukuthi network yami ngani yakhipha, so ngathi ngaba.
Thank you so much for that, Dudu. And I believe there's more comments coming through. So Oluhle, please go ahead with your comment.
My name is Oluhle Mhlanga. I'm a young woman with a disability. I tend to be worried when I hear such comments maybe from women without disabilities in terms of representation, the fear that we are still having. I'm just feeling, what's more, teenage disabilities, are we going to manage to penetrate in these leadership positions? And my second point is, you find that I've seen it, man, this political arena here in Zimbabwe is full of violence, you know. People are victims of violence in the political structures when they want to participate in politics, especially women. So yeah, it tends to be a disadvantage to us as women with disabilities to try and venture in. Reason being, Katesa, I have my own disability that I'm suffering from. You know, plus liane political violence, mama yo, I won't manage. So I think the political sphere should be conducive so that we actively participate as women with disabilities on the quota system that we are talking about. It's a disadvantage, again, reason being, we are not represented as women with disabilities, especially, like I'm saying, we fear to participate in politics. And when we are now talking about the quota system, are we going to be represented by who or leave politics? So yeah, those are my comments. Thank you for the opportunity.
You raised such amazing things that we hadn't thought about. And if anybody else would like to make a comment, Tariro? Hi, sorry, I'm just... Sugu?
I'm here.
Sugu? Yes, I'm saying you raised such amazing considerations, because you mentioned, Uti, differently abled women are not being represented at the moment, and we have to start looking at that before we go into gender-based violence. Representation of every type of woman, first of all, that's where we need to start. And if any of our panelists have a comment to that, Dudu, Linda, Gracious, do you have any comments to what we've discussed so far?
Hi, Zwa, Linda. Yeah, I think when Sue started talking about this issue, yeah, it really touched my heart, because any day, any time, I can be differently bothered due to a lot of circumstances. So I will still say, women's quota, she has said it so well, it's not even encompassing all women. It's not representative of all women. So I'll go back to my suggestion to say, if we had constituencies set aside for women to contest against each other, then we can also have a certain number also given to our different bodied women to also contest against each other. I still feel a feel of an election, a feel of that a platform to say, I am contesting against so and so. Ngingawina, a woman would have won. And then there is more representation in parliament or in the council chambers. So yeah, this is something that we actually should be thinking about. We should not just think about us as women, but we should also think about other women. Esiba tina futi iti that we are actually esiba, sideline. We should think about them. There is inclusivity. We should also think about such. We should involve each and every woman in all these fights.
Thank you so much, Linda. I think Sugu will take one more comment from you and then we'll go to our chat.
All right,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's high time where when the society tries to embrace disability. Disability does not mean inability. So as a society, we try and embrace each other. Despite of our disabilities, we are capable to lead, right? So you find, I've seen that in terms of marginalization, we are marginalized by other women like us. So my last say is, let's not discriminate each other. Let's focus on each other's abilities at the end of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sogodisha. I'll just go over to the chats now and see what we are talking about. Makara says, at PAT, it's high time women should learn to love one another and pull others up. Let's learn from men. They really support each other despite their differences and take up spaces and say, and also say, let us also empower one another as women so as to reduce, your message didn't. Let us also empower one another as women in order to reduce the number of us being abused in society. This is from Kimberly Chibunda. Right, let's go back to our topic. Our topic is gender-based violence and how it affects women participation in electoral process. Gracious, you have a comment, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Zoa. Actually, I wanted to comment on Sugu's submission on differently abled women. And when she mentioned that, it actually struck me that we most of the times tend to want to talk about women as if they are a homogeneous group, as if we are all at the same level. But as a vulnerable group called women, there are also different vulnerabilities and levels of access to information, to opportunities, and all these other things. So it is very critical in our messaging out there to try and encourage the participation of women across board, to be considerate of these differences between and among the women, the people that we call women. Because honestly speaking, the reality of Uzwa in Bulawayo is different from the reality of Amoyo in Cholocho, for instance. So our needs and interests and perhaps the worldview of what it means to participate is different. And the reality of an able-bodied woman and a differently bodied woman in terms of participation in politics is going to be different. So in whatever that we are pushing, the realities that we have to consider are very different. They are heterogeneous, and we need to at least have an all-encompassing so that we understand that we are dealing with people in different levels of access, in different levels of information, as it were, such that at the end of the day, we come up with solutions that are suited for everyone and not just this person we think is a woman, yet in essence, these are completely different people. Thank you very much, Soa.
Thank you so much, Gracious. And just to recap on our topic, we're talking about gender-based violence and how it affects women's participation in electoral processes. And just as a summary, you said, Uti, we have things like physical violence, there's intimidation, you're called names, and there's that whole stigma of being involved in politics. That said, are there any solutions? Is there a way forward? What can we do to actually stop gender-based violence, to actually create awareness? And these will be the rounding points of our discussion. So I'll just ask us to do, what solutions do you provide? What can we do to stop gender-based violence and make it easier for women to participate? What do you propose to do? I'm not sure if we've still got to do. We'll wait for her to join us. I'll pass the same question to our two other panelists here. Linda, what do you propose? We've highlighted all the issues which it's difficult for women to be participating and all that comes with gender-based violence. What are some of the solutions you propose and what we can look forward to?
Okay, thank you, Zwa. I think we are in the right direction. We need to have conversations around these issues because in September, when I came to this platform, it has actually changed from the way people have been actually submitting. And now I'm just thinking that maybe we need a hybrid system so that we really see like we can get women representation and we get women to participate as much as they can. Hybrid system entails the system that I was talking about, the quota system and the fair level one. Which women get in and then they contest against men. But we really need empowerment platforms whereby women get to understand the need to support each other. Women get to understand we need their minds, we need their expertise, we need their skills in representation, because ungananzelela yonke into iqala from policy making khona ngale parliament. If we don't have women there, then it means we won't have any women-friendly policies. We won't have any issues as kulmela omama. So we definitely need such platform with omama. They are actually empowered so that they can get into these positions of power. Lathi basiphakamise from phansi.
Linda, I'll ask a comment. I've just received a comment. Oti, if you can empower a woman, you can easily also disempower her. One of my friends has actually got a favorite saying, you can't empower somebody who's already got power, but the problem is realizing that women have already got the power. There's nothing we need to wake up to more than realizing the power is already there. All we might need to do is just acquire certain skills. We might need to learn, we might need to build each other up. But the first thing we need to realize is that we already have the power and wake up to that reality. Gracious, over to you. I wanted to ask you the same question, which we provided all these problems and challenges that women face. What are some of the solutions that we can look forward to, some of the things we can take up as women, not just as women in parliament, our day-to-day lives? What is it that we can do for each other to bring each other up, to support each other, and actually stop gender-based violence? What are some of your suggestions and thoughts, Gracious?
Thank you, Zwa. My thinking is that from all the discussions we've had, we actually realized that the root cause of GBV is these gender stereotypes. So it is mostly rooted in the differences in the traditional gender norms and values. So for us to be able to deal with this challenge of gender-based violence against women, especially in the context of elections, I think we need to take a step back in our different capacities to say, can these cultural norms be at least addressed right from the grassroots, taking it right from the communities where we belong, the families where we belong, inculcate different cultural norms that would have us accept and appreciate each other in terms of, our abilities as women, so that we are able to stand up there and be of influence as it is. And then the other thing is, like Linda has already alluded to, we need to have more of these dialogues and conversations that are aimed at undoing the things that have gotten us here as women, so that we are able to push this narrative that it takes a woman to empower another woman. Until and unless we are able to confront that challenge of the PhD syndrome, as we've referred to it before, we may be singing the same song, dancing around together in a sunny weather, but not really achieving what we need to achieve at the end of the day. So we need to confront those challenges, make sure that we as women also understand that we are each other's keeper. For Zwa to rise up, I need to be there to actually fan the wind under her wings, so that she can get to where she wants to get. And also the other thing is, we need to bring the men on board. We cannot run away from the fact that the patriarchal system that we have it sort of gives privilege to the men. I think this is where we need to have the male champions. I think most of the people who work on gender issues have used this concept of male champions, where we need the men to come on board and also sing the same song as us, so that it can be easier to approach the other men who are perhaps holding on to these traditional views on what the woman is expected to do, such that at the end of the day, the men become the pioneers. They are part of the pioneers of change. So that, because the moment we come in as women wanting this, it seems as if we are attacking their turf. But if we bring them on board, the result is likely to be different, such that at the end of the day, there will be more opportunity for the women out there, or lesser GBV against them. In most instances, the perpetrators of GBV have been the men, as much as it is fair that women also perpetrate this against each other. But in most instances, the men have been the ones who are on the forefront. So we need to have their buy-in into the narrative of making sure that women participate, have them push the agenda as well. I think in so doing, we are likely to achieve more in terms of the inclusion of women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gracious, for those words. And unfortunately, in the interest of time, we are going to have to end this program. But you raised a very valid point, Gracious. We have to bring women on board. This is not a female versus male issue. It's a community issue. It's a patriarchal issue. It's an awareness issue. It's getting our boys to stop hitting girls. It's getting our men to stop calling women names. It's getting women to also stop calling women names as well. It's a whole cultural revolution, and everybody needs to be on board for this. Thank you so much for all the comments, and I'd like to thank my panelists once again. We had Ulinda Ndlovu, who is the programs manager at CYDT. We also had Gracious Mavisa, and she's an academic from IDS at NAST. And we also had Ustuduzile Masilela, Team 28 Gwanda Development Trust. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. And the point is to get dialogue. We need to start talking. We need to start engaging. We need to start bringing ourselves on board and becoming politically savvy citizens, being socially responsible citizens by engaging in such debates. It is Women and Youth Roundtable, and we're bringing a close to this discussion on how gender-based violence affects women in electoral processes. You are watching Asakhe Online. It's been a pleasure being your moderator. And please keep supporting Asakhe Online. Thank you so much. And please remember to stay masked up. Koganini ama mask, The third wave is upon us, and there are so many variants flying around. Wear your masks, sanitize your hands, maintain social distance, and avoid any gatherings, and stay at home if possible. Thank you so very much, and do stay safe.